Thank you for the invitation to be here with you today. I'm excited about it, and just wanted to kind of share a little bit about my experience. Any Navy veterans here?
One behind you.
All righty. I'm glad to know this one. He gives presents, you know.
Santa Claus, yeah.
But I was in the Navy from 1970 to 74. It was during what we call the Vietnam. They call it conflict, but it was a war. It's like Korea. I didn't go overseas. The only time I went aboard ship was somebody invited me down to San Francisco to tour the USS Ranger, which is a bird farm, well, aircraft carrier. Navy, we call it a bird farm. But I was a radioman, which means I was in communications, and I learned early on what respect was. I went to boot camp in Great Lakes and then went to San Diego for communications school, and in the Navy they had 3 different levels of schooling, and I went through the first level. They call it Radioman A school, and they had B school, and then C, which is Comtech school. Part of our indoctrination in boot camp was showing respect for others, especially the officers around us. In fact, when we were walking on the sidewalk or in a building and we were about ready to overtake an officer from behind, we always saluted and said, "By your leave, sir," before we passed. And it was their obligation then to return the salute and say, "Carry on." But I also learned respect another way. After I got to my duty station, which was in Stockton, California, I was there for 3.5 years, and the closest we got to ships was we had a mothball fleet in the channel right next to our base. We were never allowed to go aboard those. But like I said, in my job, part of what I did was set up communication lines with ships that were coming into either San Diego, San Francisco, or Washington State, even Alaska. But I got to talking with one of the radiomen aboard the ship as we're setting up communication line. We operated teletype, and we could talk to each other just like we were carrying on a conversation here. And he told me that. Well, I told him I'd never been aboard ship. He said, "Well, come on down. I'll take you a tour." And so that was the closest I got to being on board a ship. It reminded me of walking into a factory, because I walked into the hangar deck and it was concrete floors, steel posts. I worked in a lot of factories that just looked the same way. But after I got to Stockton and got used to what I was doing, we had other people coming from B school and C school that were more advanced than what I had, but yet I was training them to do the job. And they always appreciated it. None of them ever come in trying to tell me how to do my job, because they readily admitted that they had all that book learning but practical application they didn't have. And so they were, me, a lowly E4, teaching E5s, E6s coming out of these schools how to do this job. Kind of a humbling experience for me. But I learned to respect them because of their attitude and their reception of me training them. And we always built up a good friendship during that time. There was a time several years ago when I was part of a church here in Mount Airy. In fact, I'm just started preaching there again, filling the pulpit about a month and a half ago, because their pastor has moved on and they wanted somebody to fill the pulpit, so I've been back there again. But there was a gentleman there who was a Marine, retired Marine. And I know, once a Marine, always a Marine, but they retired from active duty. But he and I carried on tremendously. I mean, we loved each other. We had a lot of fun. We carried on. And he'd always call me Squid. Because I was in the Navy. Never called me Swabby. They called me Squid. I don't know where that term came from. And then a few weeks ago, I got to talking, visiting with one of my patients who's passed on now. But he had been a Marine Reserve. And kind of like me, those who were in non-combat roles over the years have kind of been made to feel like we're second-class veterans, like we didn't really matter. In fact, I went to a church service not long after I moved here. We moved here from Missouri in 2008. That's when I started with Mountain Valley. But we were attending a church up around the Galax area, and happened to be a Veterans Recognition because of Veterans Day. And they said from the pulpit that veterans were the ones who put themselves on the line and served in combat. And my wife and I were sitting there thinking, where does that leave us? She was in the Navy also. And it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But over the years, after I started getting involved with the We Honor Veterans program and talking with other veterans like this Marine, I said, you know what? We were all willing to make that sacrifice if called upon. No matter what role we served, we were willing to serve, and if need be, do the ultimate sacrifice if we had to. He never thought of it that way before. He said he had been activated 2 different times as a Marine Reserve, but never had to go anywhere. And he didn't know it until they actually discharged him. He said, that shocked me. I said, yeah, but you were willing to go if you were called upon. He said, yes, sir. And that's the ultimate, I don't know the word I wanted has escaped me. But we're willing, we have been willing to give our all for our country. And to me, that earns respect. Yes. You earn my respect. And you earn other people's respect. Now, I was in during a time, was anybody else in during Vietnam?
Women's Army Corps.
Good to see you here today. Not very often I see a female veteran. Glad. I think you've been here before though, haven't you?
No.
No?
Not to one of these, no.
Okay. There was one here a few years ago when I was here. Hard for me to remember faces anymore. Let alone names. I don't even know where I was going with that. Kevin, help me out.
Other veterans in Vietnam.
Yes, other veterans of Vietnam.
Yes. Thank you.
Sheila, don't feel bad, we're all like that.
Well, I turned 66 at the beginning of October, and it's starting to show.
It's caused too many birthdays.
Well, I'll stop having them then. During Vietnam, even though I had never been in combat, never served aboard ship, in San Diego, going through school, we were advised never go out into San Diego proper alone. Because that was during Vietnam, and military personnel were not looked upon favorably like they are now. I can remember walking through airports and people spitting on veterans. Cursing them out. Pardon me? Yep. And it didn't matter what branch of service. You were the target, no matter what branch. And so we were advised, you don't go out alone. And some did, and they really paid the penalty. You know? And we all learned from their example that we don't do that. Yeah, I looked up in the dictionary. Honor. Recognition or distinction. That's what we're about today. We're recognizing and distinguishing our veterans for the service. Being willing to sacrifice their lives if need be. But we all put our lives on hold for, you served 2 years, 3 years? 3. My wife was in the Navy, served 3. Some in the Army only served 2. Anywhere between 2 and 4 years was normal, and then unless you made a career out of it. But you put your life on hold because our country called us to serve them. How do we honor? Well, this is one small way of honoring our veterans. And I don't know if anybody's on Facebook or not, but I like to kind of read something, a little bit of something I saw on there the other day. It's entitled, "The Flight Attendant Had to Give the Pilot Devastating News." And it's several pages long, so I probably won't read the entire thing. Just enough to give you a glimpse of how this person was honored. And that honor, let me say, is not just for veterans, but goes for the families as well. Because the families gave up so much during that time. And some families paid the ultimate sacrifice because their loved ones never came home. Most came home alive. Some came home otherwise. Some have not even returned home yet. They're still missing in action. And so we want to remember those families as well. An airplane captain's main priority is to keep his passengers, or her passengers, safe. Captain Richard Rodriguez lived up to his responsibility when a flight attendant informed him a fallen American soldier was aboard the flight. Upon that news, everything changed for the flight plan. This amazing story of kindness, comfort, and love is so touching, it may impact your heart and bring tears. This is Captain Rodriguez's post in his own words. My lead flight attendant came to me and said, "We have an HR on this flight." HR stands for Human Remains. "Are they military?" I asked. "Yes." "Is there an escort?" "Yes, I've already assigned him to a seat." "Would you please tell him to come to the flight deck? You can board him early." A short while later, a young Army sergeant entered the flight deck. He was the image of a perfect dressed soldier. He introduced himself when I asked him about a soldier. The escorts of these fallen soldiers talk about them as if they were still alive and still with us. My soldier is on his way back to Virginia. I asked him if there was anything I could do for him, and he said no. I told him that he had the toughest job in the military, that I appreciated the work that he does for the families of our fallen soldiers. First officer and I got up out of our seats to shake his hand, and he left to find his seat. After completing their pre-flight checks, they took off. Then he said, "I just found out." The flight attendant came to him and said, "I just found out the family of the soldier we are carrying is also on board. Father, mother, wife, and 2-year-old daughter were escorting their husband and father home. The family was upset because they were unable to see the container that the soldier was in before we left. They said we were on our way to a major hub at which the family was going to wait 4 hours for the connecting flight home to Virginia." Well, to make things shorten up a little bit, the captain said, "I could hear the desperation in the flight attendant's voice when she asked me if there was anything I could do. I'm on it." Airborne communication, he said, is normally through emails. He said, "This was a special situation. I got on the radio and talked with those at the airport where we were going to be landing. Explained the situation, and a couple hours had passed, and they're getting ready for their their landing procedures and everything, and things were going to start getting busy." Excuse me. So he said, "I sent them an email asking for an update. Captain, sorry it has taken so long to get back to you. There is policy on this now, and I had to confirm on a few things. Upon your arrival, a dedicated escort team will meet the aircraft. The team will escort the family to the ramp and plane side. A van will also be used to load the remains with a secondary van for the family. The family will be taken to their departure area and escorted into the terminal, where the remains can be seen on the ramp. It's a private area for the family only. When the connecting aircraft arrives, the family will be escorted onto the ramp and plane side to watch the remains being loaded for the final leg home. Captain, Captain, most of us here in flight control are veterans. Please pass our condolences on to the family. Thanks. He passed the word on to the family. Said there's a team in place to meet the aircraft. And it looked like all was coming together. Then I realized that once we turned the seatbelt sign off, everyone would stand up at once and delay the family from getting off the airplane. As we approached our gate, I asked the co-pilot to contact the ramp controller that we were going to stop short of the gate to make an announcement to the passengers. He did that, and the ramp controller said, "Take your time." I stopped the aircraft and set the parking brake. I pushed the public address button and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I have stopped short of our gate to make a special announcement. We have a passenger on board who deserves our honor and respect. Also on board are his father, mother, wife, and daughter. Your entire flight crew is asking for all passengers to remain in their seats to allow the family to exit the aircraft first. Thank you." At that time, he said they continued their path to the gate. After they did their post-flight shutdown, so a few minutes later, I opened the cockpit door. I found the two forward flight attendants crying, something you just do not see. I was told after we came to a stop, every passenger on the aircraft stayed in their seats, waiting for the family to exit the aircraft. When the family got up and gathered their things, a passenger slowly started to clap his hands. Moments later, more passengers joined in. And soon the entire aircraft was clapping. Words of God bless you, I'm sorry, thank you, be proud, and other kind words were uttered to the family as they made their way down the aisle and out of the aircraft. They were escorted down the ramp to finally be with their loved one. Many of the passengers disembarking thanked me for the announcement I had made. They were just words, I told them. I can say them over and over again, but nothing I say can bring back that brave soldier. That's honor and respect. But friends, we don't have to wait for that particular type of incident. We can pay honor and respect to each other. And I know we're here to celebrate and pay honor and respect to veterans. But friends, shouldn't we be doing that with each other all the time anyway? Veteran or not? That's what we're called on to do. And I think if there was more of that going on in our country right now, things would be a whole lot better for our country.